You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Kamala is Brat. And that is good.
When we think brat, we think like spoil brat, like some of our children. No one thinks brat is something good.
Quote, Brat, you're just that girl who is a little messy and likes to party and maybe says some dumb things sometimes, end quote.
It's just one reason that voters seem to detest Kamala Harris. You decide.
It's all over social media that these young lefties are trying to rebrand Kamala Harris's cringy moments as somehow cool.
Very honest, very blunt, a little bit volatile, like does dumb things, but it's brat. You're brat, that's brat.
Chartreuse is the color, and Kamala Harris has adopted that for whatever social media page that is.
If we're going to lose, we want to go down swinging. Swinging from that coconut tree or whatever. We are unburdened. We are here living in the context, the passage of time. Inject all of it into my veins at this moment. I am on the bus, and I plan to be there for the next 3.5 months.
Kamala Harris is so terminally online, so disconnected from the general public, that she believes that Charlie XCX, who, again, most people above the age of 35 have never heard of Charlie XCX. She thinks that embracing the branding of Charlie XCX is somehow good for her. That's how disconnected and terrible her campaign is.
What is the power and the impact of having this online culture, especially the brat idea from Charlie XCX, come into a presidential campaign?
That's the question we'll be answering today. Let's get into it. Before we get into things, I want to talk about this video's partner, Hudson, which provides sophisticated workflow tools and insights for social media, and their most recent report dives into the must-know information and trends of 2024. The report has 6 sections and so much I want to pull from, but here are 3 insights that stick out to me. First, running through all the KPI definitions is super valuable because if you're posting on social media in any serious way, you're essentially building a media company, and it's important to understand how to measure your progress. Second, this breakdown of TikTok versus Reels versus Shorts is really interesting because it shows how Reels is providing brands with more reach on average than TikTok is, which kind of surprised me. Also, the share stat really shows how much cultural significance is held by stories on Instagram and how they allow a post's reach potential to skyrocket. Even if the Reels algorithm isn't as great as TikTok's, stories really, again, allow that potential reach to skyrocket, which is a feature that TikTok struggles with. Okay, lastly, third, it's cool to see how each platform is differentiated by the types of accounts that thrive on there. Like on TikTok, the brands at the forefront tend to have a specific person or people within their storytelling. On Instagram, there's an emphasis on streaming as well as some legacy brands. And then on YouTube, the brands that do best feel quite similar to traditional TV. It's all really interesting, and those are just a few of my favorite insights, but you can dive into the full 25-page report via the link in my description. Hudson is always putting out new reports, so if you want to keep up with the social media world from a marketing perspective, you gotta check them out. Now, let's get into the video. Alright, I'm dressed like this because I just went on live TV in person for the first time. I went on CNN, The Source with Caitlin Collins, to talk about all things Kamala and social media, which is just like right up my alley. This is the convergence of so many of my different interests, so super happy to cover this. I will find the clip and post it on Twitter or Instagram or something, so be on the lookout for that. I haven't watched it back, don't know how I did, but today's video, I'm gonna go straight through. I am inspired by the live TV model tonight. Might become a live streamer. Absolutely not, I can't handle that. But yeah, I'm just gonna talk straight through about Kamala's social media rise, try to hit everything. That's why I usually script stuff, because I'm like, I want this to be the most perfect video about this topic. I want to hit every detail. I'm gonna try so hard to not hate myself after the fact, but I'm trying to get rid of perfectionism. All right, let's fucking talk about this. So let's talk about exactly how Kamala's social media rise happened. Starting there, because I have not seen anyone cover this like accurately, and everyone's just talking about Brat Summer, and I'm just like, this isn't it. So The first time Kamala got memeified was with We Did It Joe, when she figured out that her and Joe Biden had won the 2020 election, and she was excited and said, "We did it, Joe." And that got memeified to outer space, right? Then, this coconut clip, where she says, this quote her mother said to her, where she's like, "You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context in all of which you live and what came before you." This clip surfaced because of RNC Research, which is an account that supports Republicans by clipping Democrat videos, like mostly of the Biden-Harris administration, of course, in hopes of making them look corrupt, stupid, and so on. This coconut clip gets posted by RNC Research in May of 2023. It doesn't go super viral, but that's who curated it. And it ends up going viral over time, and it's a video clip we've all seen at this point. A year later, in April of 2024, this soundbite goes mega viral on TikTok. It becomes a trending sound, and there ends up being over 18,000 videos under it, millions upon millions of views, and yeah, it's a trending sound. Now, let's talk about how Brat and Charlie XCX come in, but we're not going to focus on that too much. So, Brat, the album drops early June. There's a specific song on there called Apple. It's one of my personal favorites, which Charlie actually deemed as the most underrated song on the album, because in a lot of the rankings, people were putting it really low. So Charlie XCX has this album come out, the song Apple. Let's put a pause on that. Let's bring it back to Coconut. The Coconut quote. Everyone was like, what is she even saying? Like, I don't get it. There were some people who were like, no, but I get her. But like, it was always used ironically and people weren't taking her seriously. There was a TikTok user on June 30th, and this came on my For You page because this is how tapped in I am to all these fucking colliding worlds, and I am just like, again, so happy to cover this. Someone overlaid the Apple song onto the clip of Kamala saying the coconut quote. And why this is because the song Apple has a very similar sentiment as that Kamala quote, well, from her mother. The song is about how, like, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's talking about that family dynamic. And that's very similar to you exist in the context and all which you live and what came before you. So all of a sudden this clip unironically clicks for people and the tides turn. Everything shifts in this moment. Now, what happens then? There is an edit on Twitter that goes viral. Shout out Ryan. He actually, the creator of it, had tweeted me to show it to me and I was like, here we go. And then all of a sudden the edits start flying on TikTok. And as you guys know, I am obsessed with talking about this, but edits are the most captivating and persuasive form of media there is right now on social media because it is a multimedia format that hits all the different attention hacks. Gone are the days that still image memes are compelling. Now we have edits, and they are a modern day political ad that is in the hands of the everyday voter and can go crazy viral overnight. So, yesterday, let's talk about where we are right now with Kamala and social media. Yesterday, the campaign made an individual account for Kamala Harris on TikTok. Before, they just had BidenHQ, which was the campaign team's point of view. So this individual account is going to be her point of view. And this creates a good contrast because Kamala's individual account, it can be all about the business. It can be focused. It can be serious. It can be about the policy and the mission that she's trying to drive during her campaign. Now, Kamala HQ over here, it can play into broader internet culture. It can go through some trial and error. It can be a little unserious, and none of the flack really goes to Kamala as an individual herself. Right now, this is a very different approach than what we're seeing from the other candidates, so Donald J. Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Donald Trump is very much going quality over quantity. There are only a few posts, but he has racked up 9.2 million followers, and many of those videos have over 100 million views, but it's kind of like a fly on the wall approach. It's just someone following him around. I'm really compelled by that type of content personally, that third person point of view. Then we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I would say he's kind of doing a mixed approach. It's similar to what Kamala's team is doing, but it's both of those things on one account. So it's both that individual content. There's even what Trump is doing. There's that fly on the wall, third person point of view content. And then there's also that like campaign team, because I believe his @ is like Team Kennedy 2024. So it's not his name. It is that mix of the campaign team and him as an individual, which is also interesting. And he's racked up a significant following, 1.7 million followers. And he gets good reach on his videos, but by no means what Donald Trump is getting. Now we have Kamala. The team has really capitalized on the virality they're experiencing, as they should. This is absurd. The universe gave them this perfect timing. All these different things collided and created this, I hate to say unprecedented, I don't even know if I'm using that word right, but unprecedented organic campaign. It's just insane. When I say organic, I'm talking about the initial collision between Kamala Harris and Charlie XCX and how that naturally compelled people as a concept, which spun into hundreds, if not thousands of videos being made and racking up millions upon millions of views. That initial collision was organic. Now, I'm not saying organic when it comes to collaborations with creators like Harry Daniels or the guy who does Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell impressions, because these are things that are pre-planned and agreed upon amongst Kamala's team. These people either pitch it or they pitch it to these people and they meet up. Now, they're not paid. There is organicness, there's authenticity when it comes to them just like naturally wanting to do this and be like, yes, I'm in support of her, I want to be a part of this. They're not paid. And this is no different than the RNC having a bunch of creators be there to act as media and having a place for them to film, right? It's the same realm of things. Now, in the past 24 hours, there's been a potential expose. It is not 100%, but supposedly an agency called Launch Viral, I believe, was trying to recruit creators, was, putting out ads to pay people $150 to post in support of Kamala. And supposedly, if these people were posting, they weren't even putting they weren't disclosing that this was paid. It was basically an ad for Kamala. And this, of course, gets messy when it comes to FTC guidelines. And that is another conversation. I would be remiss not to mention this. It's happened in the past 24 hours after I filmed this, but it's something I'll cover separately. But I'm talking again about that initial collision. There is a ton of organic media frenzy around Kamala, undeniably. Before BidenHQ, which is now Kamala HQ rebranded, the videos just weren't really that compelling. They were on TikTok for a few months, and they had just around 400,000 followers. Again, that's much less than Trump at 9.2 million, and much less than even RFK Jr., who people believe an independent doesn't even have a shot. He has 1.7 million followers on TikTok. So that account only having around 400K, that's not good. And aside from Biden's old age, there was the conversation about, okay, he wants to ban TikTok. Even though Trump wanted to ban TikTok back in 2020 and during that election, it wasn't as big of a conversation. His comment sections were often flooded with you want to ban TikTok, we aren't going to respect you being on this app. But also, he's not super clippable. His personality is more even keel. He's kind of talks slower, just again, aside from his old age. There was one clip of him that was utilized in edits over the years where he's like, we are America, second to none, and we own the finish line, which is a really powerful line, and he said it with a lot of conviction and power behind it. And something like that is very good for these types of edits and just TikTok media in general, but he's typically not like that. So a lot of the content on their page was Trump clips. And at one point, I don't know if I'm pretty sure, I'm not saying 100%, but I'm pretty sure they privated a lot of the videos. I remember at one point I went through and I was like, this looks like a Trump fan page. If I'm not clicking on the videos and actually seeing what he's saying, I'm scrolling through this, there's so much Trump content. It just wasn't compelling. It wasn't inspiring. There was a negative tone to it. It's like, where's Biden? We're on BidenHQ, right? Now, this shift to Kamala, the content is far more uplifting. It is focused on Kamala and again, has a positive energy to it. There was a video utilizing Chappell Roan's song Feminine Non, and that has over 40 million views and nearly 6 million likes. So entirely different from the engagement that the Biden account was getting before, and it's really fascinating to see. There are some critiques because I know Chappell Roan had denied performing at the White House at one point recently, so some people were critiquing that, but regardless, this really resonated with people. Let's talk about the impact this is having, because again, I didn't really emphasize enough how much these edits between Kamala Harris, the album Brat, or even outside of that, just Kamala Harris edits to other songs are flooding people's For You feeds. But let's talk about if there is impact, or is this one big filter bubble? Because Charlie XCX has a cult-like fan base. She is more mainstream now, of course. She's broken into this much broader ecosystem, even within mainstream legacy media outlets. Side note though, this is her major mainstream moment. She's been in the music industry the past 15 years, and she's had specific songs like Boom Clap. If you watch The Fault in Our Stars, that was huge, where it's boom, clap, the sound in my heart. Then there's Boys. I was busy thinking about boys. And then what's the other one? Oh, Break the Rules. I don't want to go to school, I just want to break the rules. You've probably heard these songs and just didn't know they were Charlie XCX, because this is a moment where her and an album is breaking into the mainstream. All right. But still, it's like, was this just a filter bubble? Because we've seen mainstream media cover things on TikTok. For example, one viral video of someone who looks younger saying something, and all of a sudden mainstream media is covering it as a Gen Z versus millennial battle, and that is not the case at all. But there's this weird relationship between social media and legacy media when they cover things like that. Even though it's not true, all of a sudden, because it's the mainstream coverage, that kind of comes back into the ecosystem and often becomes true. I remember specifically with the word cheugy. I can't believe I just fucking said that. I said I would never say it out loud, but we're doing it. That word was said, again, the situation I just said, where like a younger person on TikTok was talking about this, and then mainstream media made it into a generational battle. And no one in our fucking generation, aside from this girl, was saying this. But all of a sudden, it becomes this mainstream conversation, and people are like, oh, maybe it just wasn't on my feeds, and slowly but surely I hear more people start using it. But again, as these posts on Kamala HQ are just getting crazy engagement, I really do think this is breaking out of a filter bubble, an echo chamber, and is causing real impact. So the following growth of the Kamala HQ account over the past 72 hours, they've gained more than 1 million followers. Again, over months, they only had 400K. Now they are sitting at around 1.5 million. So trailing right behind RFK Jr. Still have a lot of catching up to do to Trump on TikTok, but that is crazy significant in 3 days. In terms of the polls have switched a bit in favor of the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris. So before it was looking like those 18 through 34 were more so leaning towards Trump. Again, it's still really close, but now it's leaning more towards Kamala Harris. But there was this interesting coverage by Harry Entim of CNN, where he talked about, okay, yes, right before Biden dropped out, he was unfavorable. But when you look at this, 2020, when there was a ton of energy behind him, Biden was up 21 points in terms of a margin between him and Trump for younger voters and who they were supporting. 21 points. Harris, even with all of this energy behind her, she is only up 9 points on Trump right now. So she's up. But when we talk about broader voters, does this have enough impact, 9 points within the younger voter demographic, to make a big impact, let's say, in these swing states and everything, for her to win the actual election? We shall see. He also showed that even though support for the Democratic nominee is growing amongst younger voters and, significant percentage points, that in terms of the actual action, so what we say versus what we do, the percent for who is motivated to actually get out and vote, it hasn't gone up that much, only 3%. But again, this is changing day by day. Because if you look here, Vote.org just published that almost 40,000 people registered to vote in the 48 hours after President Biden stepped down. 83% of those were people aged 18 through 34. That is more than when Taylor Swift posted to her over 550 million followers across platforms than she got to register. She had 34,000 new voters register in a 48-hour period. Again, just this switch from Biden to Kamala, and I undeniably think that this movement on social media is causing this shift, because 83% were from people aged 18 through 34 of those 40,000 new voters. That is a wild stat. And we already saw crazy stats. Vice President Harris raised $81 million in the first 24 hours after President Biden stepped aside, the highest 24-hour fundraising haul of any presidential candidate in history. There is something major going on here. It was her speech in Milwaukee. I think it was her first speech on the campaign, at least in like one of the major swing states. Wait, is Wisconsin a swing state? Am I fucking this up? Yes, battleground state. I think that's the same as a swing state. Anyway, the speech in Milwaukee, she all of a sudden says, in the midst of it, we're not going back. And the crowd's energy, it just struck a chord. And everyone else starts cheering, we're not going back. She continues to say, she's like, we're not going back. We're not, like, you can just tell it was, again, these organic moments, she is just really hitting her stride. Regardless of who you're in support, even if you're in support of Trump, if you're in support of RFK, the energy of this all is wild. So again, almost 40,000 new people registered to vote, the highest 24-hour fundraising haul of any presidential candidate in history. The campaign said it brought in more than 888,000 contributions from individual grassroots donors, 60% of whom had not donated before in the 2024 cycle. Again, this is wild because the media situation right now is also so grassroots. We're just seeing a lot of power to the people, while on the other end, you have these fucking tech billionaires boosting up the Republicans. Okay, roughly 43,000 donors have signed up to give weekly to the campaign. But to ground us in reality for a second, we still have 3 months to go. Think how much has changed in just the past 2 weeks. We had an assassination attempt on a former president, current Republican nominee. We had a president back out just 3 months before, to run for his second, why am I forgetting the fucking word? Second term. Okay, president dropped second term 3 months before, and now we have the VP stepping up, completely aside from her identity. She's just really hitting a stride messaging-wise, personality-wise. But again, we don't really know anything about her. We have the fucking "we did a joke" clip. We have the coconut clip. We have the "unburdened by what has been." We have the "wheels on the bus go round and round." We have her telling you how to cook a turkey. If you go to KamalaHarris.com, all you can do is donate. She doesn't show what her platform is on there. There's not like, the easy things listed. On Trump's website, he has like things numbered and just like exactly what his platform is. We don't really have that from her yet.
Though she did just drop her first official campaign ad, and it's focused on freedom, helping people get ahead, not just get by, eradicating poverty, abortion rights, protecting schools from gun violence, affordable health care, no one being above the law, and generally fighting for the promise of America. And just another side note, because there's going to be a few sprinkled throughout here, is people are validly, if that's a word, critiquing that she was just like put into this position. There was no primary. Before, when people were talking about the possibility of Biden stepping down and who would come in for him, she was within the mix, but by no means like leading in the conversations of that. So people, again, have a valid critique of like, how is this happening? But this is where we are, so we're reporting based on that.
And in terms of that speech she just gave in Milwaukee, really fucking good, but we think back to the debates for the 2020 election when she was running for president. I don't remember her as a standout much at all. And we all have our weaknesses and unappealing characteristics, and while some have already picked those out for Kamala, there are destined to be more as she becomes more in the public eye that are going to come out. Maybe that won't happen until if and when she becomes president, but that could happen beforehand, and we don't know how her campaign team or her are able to shift from that. For Trump, everything is out in the open. For RFK Jr., a lot of shit's out in the open. He talks about how he's like, I have so many fucking skeletons in my closet. But yeah, again, what can be unburdened by what has been? On the negative press side, there's this clip Republicans are trying to push right now because of all this media hype amongst young voters for her, and it's her calling 18 through 24-year-olds stupid, and it's like, that's why we put them in dormitories. It's a clip from 2015, and it's just funny to see that turn because this whole media frenzy is so unserious when it comes to the edits and just like the music remixes. When you peel the layers of the onion, there's like deep-rooted seriousness to it, and the impact it has is serious in positive, potentially negative ways, but right now really positive ways. But on the surface, it's really unserious and yes, kind of stupid. And so people are like not even mad about this. They're like, yeah, whatever. You probably aren't wrong. All right, let's talk about two things here. Let's talk about how the 2024 election differs from the previous meme election, 2016. And let's also talk about how TikTok's impact on the 2020 election is different than its impact on the 2024 election. Love this. All right, so 2016 was all about the still image memes. And I talked about this earlier, but we're kind of moving on from that, right? We are very focused on video, specifically short form video, and how this differs from 2016. In 2017, iPhones got the ability to screen record, and I don't think we realize how fucking big this is. How much clips take over the social media ecosystem now? The ability to screen record a YouTube video, something you see on any platform, say that to your camera roll, and share that elsewhere, that has changed the ecosystem like crazy in the type of content we consume. We consume clips a ton more than we did back then. All right, clips. The ability to download other people's videos on social media. TikTok introduced this. Vine, you were able to download your own videos, but TikTok introduced the ability to download other people's videos, and now Instagram has allowed that, and now Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, has allowed that. This is becoming the norm, and again, that clip shareability situation, or that download and add to your own video edit, this is huge. And then we have CapCut and generally the rise of these mobile-based editing softwares that are pretty advanced and really easy to utilize. CapCut, owned by ByteDance like TikTok is, integrated into TikTok, and there are also templates, which just democratizes video editing like crazy. So you can click on a template, add your clips, and you have this like really high quality edit that serves as a modern day political ad. And overnight, you have no followers before, but because of TikTok's algorithm, and again, how it democratizes reach more than any other platform, this can be seen by millions of potential voters overnight. Most of the best editors I see on TikTok are utilizing After Effects, which is a much more complex editing software, but a lot are using CapCut. I saw this one editor who made one of the best edits I've ever seen say they were utilizing CapCut and their phone felt like it was gonna blow up when they were trying to export it. But again, CapCut CapCut. Can't fucking talk anymore. CapCut democratizes video editing, makes it seamless, easy, immediate upload to TikTok. Boom. Again, this puts power into the hands of the people, which, to be honest, I was worried about going into this election regarding TikTok because obviously Biden is supporting a TikTok ban. Kamala was a part of that administration. Donald Trump, even though he said he wanted a TikTok ban before, he's now running trying to get the youth vote and just like, no, not me. So I've been on alert for possible algorithmic interference, but I've gotten no sense of any interference like that. So we are seeing power in the hands of the people to, again, make modern day political ads and get viewership overnight. That in the past, to make such high quality media about a candidate and also have that media get seen by thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, crazy money behind that. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Like, it is wild what we're experiencing and what we can do. All right, now let's talk about TikTok's role in the 2020 election versus this election, 2024. In the 2020 election, we kind of forget, but TikTok was a huge mobilizing tool amongst young voters. The energy of June 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, and that energy, politically, just socially, everything, that carried on all the way into November on TikTok. I remember it was like a very intense few months on that platform. But at that time, TikTok really was predominantly a Gen Z app. And also the type of content on there, we were all like fucking mute. It was all about sounds. It was all about music, and it was just text overlays, which again, messages were pushed for sure, but there was much less talking on there. How TikTok has evolved over the years, we are all yapping. That's another word I don't like to utilize, but moving on. We also now have the slideshow content on TikTok, which we did not have in 2020, but to sounds, to music, you can add way more context now with the slideshow. And most of Kamala HQ's best posts, I believe, are those types of posts. So that's major. And then again, we have edits. And while they did not originate on TikTok, we've seen them on Instagram and YouTube the past decade. They are now going uppity up in popularity. And again, in terms of how often and how easily and the frequency at which they can be created and get reach on this platform is unlike anything we've ever seen before. So all that to say, 2020 versus 2024 on TikTok, the content is much different. And then most importantly, it's become much more intergenerational and the user base overall has grown exponentially. Plus the relationship between TikTok and Twitter, again, because of the download function and now Twitter's For You page, and TikTok's getting reposted to Twitter, and like so much of our For You page being TikToks that are reposted to Twitter. What happens on TikTok also has major impact cross-platform. We're seeing big things. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's talk about moving forward. One thing I've noticed in the comment sections of Kamala versus Trump, they're very representative of these stats, that there is a bigger divergence in views between young men and women than ever before. You look at a Trump comment section on TikTok and it's filled with male energy. And then you look at Kamala's comment sections and it's filled with more feminine energy. And this is kind of representative of a female versus a male for president, but I do think there's something representative there about the times we're in regarding the divergence in views. So I don't know. I don't feel a deep gender culture war right now at all, and I really don't want to manifest that, but it's just something interesting. Another thing to look out for is that there hasn't been a big moment with artificial intelligence yet. Last week, there was a deep fake of Biden going around addressing voters in the Oval Office, but he was saying some like crazy bullshit, so it was obviously fake, and it kind of stayed in a Twitter bubble. Generative AI has been utilized in some of these Kamala memes videos to put her voice into remixes of popular songs. So we've seen that, but it's been pretty harmless. We haven't seen a big moment with AI yet. I would, again, not like to manifest this. I would like it not to happen, but I think it's good for people to just stay cautious and on alert about that, because if it's gonna happen, it would make sense this election. There's been a lot of AI talk over the past 2 years, though it has kind of quieted down and people are focused on issues that are impacting their like everyday lives right now.
Little update. Elon just knocked over another domino that has nearly 150 million views on Twitter, X. Well, probably not him, because he takes like other people's memes. I've covered this before and doesn't give credit. So probably someone else had created this generative AI voice of Kamala Harris and overlaid it on a campaign ad. And again, like, he is sharing this out to his crazy following, a lot of viewership. There's a lot of debate right now as to if it's legal or not, or if it goes against the platform policies and being the leader of the platform. Again, a lot of conversation about it. We're going to cover it separately.
Okay, very lastly, moving forward, I tweeted 2 things. The first is back to my critique of how BidenHQ was way too filled with Trump content. They need to move away from that, just focus on uplifting Kamala's personality and her point of view, because again, like with RNC research, those types of accounts, that can backfire on you, because this is the attention economy. And Trump, again, all his shit is out in the open. At this point, if you're putting him on your feed, it's like all attention is good attention for him. You know, all press is good press. He's kind of the embodiment of that, and I think they just need to focus on getting Kamala's face in front of people continuously, flooding the feeds, uplifting vibes. We need more of that. Again, people are like, we're not going back. They just want a vision for a better future. They don't want all this negative, hateful energy. And then the second tweet, I'm just going to read it word for word. I quote tweeted someone who said, Kamala, if you're reading this, do not acknowledge the coconut memes. I repeat, do not acknowledge the coconut memes. The children will turn on you. And I said, yes. Kamala HQ needs to be real careful about this, because the Brat banded banner almost crossed the line, and they will if they double down. These types of movements are only naturally compelling if they feel organic and user/voter driven. Once institution, company, etc. energy tries to capture the moment, it begins to feel corny. They need to play it cool and stay focused. Leave the outright unseriousness to everyone else. I think it's totally fine to give things a nod, but you gotta make sure you aren't playing into something past its peak, because then it's just like, it's bad juju. And to expand on that, this is what I emailed to a journalist. I believe it's fine for Kamala HQ to tastefully lean into a meme or trend when it's growing, but they need to be careful about leaning in too far and messing with the organic nature of the movement. It's important that they too let it die and instead lean into creating blank canvas moments for editors, commentators, and others on the internet to run with and add their creative spin. I think Trump's team has always done a solid job of that, and that Kamala's campaign could additionally benefit from. All right, I believe that's everything. I feel like I hit on all the points I wanted to hit on, and I just kind of free-flowed this. Guys, I might become a live streamer. No, I'm not. I hope I didn't seem biased in this. It's just the energy around this movement is so fucking fascinating. And I made a list of all my different interests that it converges with. Digital culture, the relationship between legacy media and social media, politics, edits, music, but specifically an album I've had on repeat, social media strategy and marketing, you name it. This scenario hits all those points in. I'm just very energized, fascinated, and excited to share this information with you guys. I hope this was valuable.
Something I did want to add is, even though this is all so interesting to me, maybe you, we should be thinking of Noam Chomsky's quote, we shouldn't be looking for heroes, we should be looking for good ideas, because we are moving towards a more personality-driven world in general, but political world as well, and that's not good, right? So when it comes to the issues that are important to you, we should be voting for people based on how their policies and their positions align with those issues that we want solved at the end of the day. It kind of goes without saying, but I would feel weird not adding this.
There's an interesting shift here, but we got 3 months to go. Anything can change, anything can happen. Let's just embrace it. And I hope everyone is safe, happy, healthy. I don't like the word happy, fulfilled, or, on that journey. I don't know what we're doing right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.